We've upset security.
Well, we've been moved around.
But no. So Rusty, I think what people would really like to hear, if we've got time. I know
You're going to have to speak up, guys. They've said it's okay in here.
Okay, so I think what people would really like to hear on the show at home, and I don't like to condense it, is your experience on that night that put the regiment on the map.
Oh, the 5th of May 1980. Don't remember it very well. 17:35 hours.
Just a small operation going on. So if you could just have could we have 5 minutes to talk about that?
Yeah.
Right, let's do it. So
I'll skip to the salient points.
yeah,
Oh.
we're live now.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, 5th of May 1980. Yeah.
5th of May 1980.
This is the finale of what happened down at the Iranian embassy siege that took place between the 30th of April and the 5th of May 1980. 38 years ago, but it's something obviously that you're not going to ever forget. Eventually, just been made into a film called 6 Days, starring Jamie Bell, Mark Strong, Abby Cornish, to name but a few. So let's go back to that day. Around about 1923 hours on the 5th of May, there was proof of murder when Lavasani, who was the press attaché for the Iranian embassy, had been executed by one of the terrorists. There were 6 terrorists. That in itself was unacceptable in the UK, proof of murder. Not only that, they dumped him outside on the street where he was identified and picked up by the police on a stretcher and taken away. We were then put on standby yet again, but this was going to be the final one, which we nicknamed, or was called, the resolution. In other words, everything else had failed, negotiations had broken down at certain times, eventually proof of murder, and Mrs. Thatcher, the then Prime Minister, decided that she would order that it's now a regimental operation and not the police. Remember, the Metropolitan Police, which I have huge respect for on that day and the 5 days previous, they actually took care of everything, and it was a Metropolitan Police operation supported by the SAS. Once it broke down, we got the piece of paper signed by the Colonel to take over control from the Metropolitan Police. Assistant Chief Commissioner John Dello was in charge. The pieces of paper were signed to say it is now an SAS operation. With that, the guys were into position. It took 16 minutes to get red and blue team into position, ready to assault the building on 6 levels, 56 rooms had to be cleared. So really the amount of bodies that actually went in would have been on the initial command of go, 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 would have been around about 32. And the idea was to work from the top down to the bottom and the bottom down to up to the top. And the mission, which was everything, every operation has a mission, or should have a mission, and it was to rescue the hostages. That was the only mission we had, rescue the hostages. With that, the guys at the back of the building, at the front of the building, the abseilers came down to the 2nd floor. So at the moment we've got the top floor covered, we've got the 4th floor covered, the 3rd floor covered, second, the 1st floor where you see the guys on the balcony, the 4 guys that were there, the only people who went in on the front, and then it came down to the ground floor where my team of 10 of us, 6 was to clear the ground floor and 4 was to follow us in to go down and clear the basement. And the reason that was that the basement itself didn't have an access from the outside directly into the basement. So It took 16 minutes, as I say, to get into position covertly. We did not want to be compromised. That was okay. One boot went through a window on the second floor, which alerted Salim, the leader of the terrorists. He heard something while it was breaking glass. With that, and the go, the huge explosion you see is the command for us to go and try to achieve the mission, which was to rescue the hostages. That's exactly what happened. It took 11 minutes from start to finish, 16 minutes to get into position, and then from start to finish, it took 11 minutes for the guys of B Squadron to clear 56 rooms on 6 levels of the building, and pronounce at the end of the day 19 hostages freed. It was then 19 hostages freed, 5 terrorists were killed, 1 terrorist, Fauzi Nejad, got out, but we didn't know that at the time. So that was exactly what happened. The 5 terrorists that were killed and the 1 that got out, all of them had a chance at any time to walk out the building. They would have gone to jail. There was going to be no free passage out of the country, but proof of murder, one silly, if you want to call it that, act by a terrorist who executed the press attaché. With that, there was going to be no, it would have been definitely a jail sentence for all of them. But, as the Prime Minister said at the time, you know, they weren't going to leave the country. And that's the most important thing. They weren't going to leave the country. So they took it into their own hands, obviously tired. In my belief, Salim, the leader, actually wasn't a very strong character, as was proved. As it got towards the 5th and 6th day, he was losing control, and then the second in command, Faisal, the big bully guy, he'd sort of tried to take over, and as you can see from past records over the 38 years, it didn't work. They were going at each other's throats, but it was too late. So with that, after the 11 minutes, 5 terrorists dead, and the siege was pronounced over, and the hostages totally released out into the back garden of the embassies, onto the grass. Everybody was segregated, male one side, female the other side. What would be a terrorist was pointed out, and this is the guy that got away. And would you believe that that one guy is now living on benefits? He went to jail for 28 years, got out in 2008, went to jail, came out, living on benefits in London, as a lot of people know. Yes, he's being housed and he's being looked after. And that, without going into the gory details, is what happened all those years ago.
So without sharing on that one, sorry, so the guys on the front, the ones that are famous, the biggest balcony in the world, the one that everybody's been on according to legend, right?
Yeah.
The big balcony, right? Okay. The reason there was only a small amount of guys, was that because they wanted to keep guys away from the press, or was it actually easier to access the building from behind?
The 2 reasons were that we were actually called the neighbours from hell. We were next door, 1415 Princess Gate, which is actually known as the Docks House, because it was the Royal College.
It was the Royal College's practitioner's house, wasn't it?
General practitioners. Lovely place inside. We sat there and watched snooker throughout the 6 days until the final, when the resolution had to be put in.
Did you get the final win before the assault?
No, we got the result.
You got the result?
But,
Consider it.
but yeah, it's going back in the old memory banks here. But actually, when you talk about the front, the front, there was never going to be, and part of the briefing is, and I've got the briefing, is that there was never going to be any 4 guys going in, but during somewhere of going into position, and I only found out, and I was a blue team leader at the back. I didn't even know that part of the plan was to smoke off the front as soon as anything happened, and the press couldn't see it.
Yeah, because that's normally the case, isn't it?
That's
Especially
normally
when we did Stanford, there was a huge distraction put out
Yeah.
that we were going to let go.
Well, we had 2 smoke generators on each side where the press were. We had 8 guys assigned, 8 guys, 4 on each, to help with anything untowards, but take care of the smoke canisters and make sure they went off and obliterated everything as best they could. However, somewhere in there, it came to light afterwards. Mrs. Thatcher, the Prime Minister, said, "No, this is how we're going to show the world how we."
Yeah, she didn't care, did she? She said, "No. I want to see them do this.
That's right.
And I want the world to know that this is how we take care of business on our shores."
That's right.
Which was it's quite a move, really, isn't it? You know, it's quite.
It wouldn't happen with the parties in power this day and age. I can
Absolutely
tell you that now.
not. No.
But that's what they did. Total success, vindicated, and if you notice afterwards, there's not been many people, terrorists that came after that to come to our shores. What they did is, they went to easier targets throughout. They didn't want to come back to us. They didn't want to meet the neighbours from hell, ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And read that one out. We've got a couple of questions coming in for you, Rusty, because obviously there's quite an audience watching this now. Like and share, people, because this is a one-off opportunity. I won't get Rusty on every week, and he is, it's a privilege to have Rusty on the show as far as I'm
I
concerned.
would come on every week, but logistics-wise...
You're too far away, aren't
Yeah.
You're a bit far away.
Right, okay, so you read that question there.
you? Right, okay. So, question for Rusty. Do you think there would be more of an active role with the police, any assault now, due to a more weaponised police force back then?
I'm not quite sure what that question
Yeah,
was.
I'm a
Can you
bit
say that
confused.
one again?
Do you think there would be more of an active role with the police in any assault now? Oh, they're saying basically, do you think that the police would take more of a part in this now, as opposed to back then when they didn't have the weapons, did they? I mean, your man had a 38, didn't he? That was it, wasn't
Yeah,
it? So,
but actually, total respect for the police then and now, there's a different training going on now, and to be honest, there's not a million SAS guys around anymore. You know, they're all employed in different jobs. And I think actually that the police nowadays are trained differently to them. They're better equipped, and so are our guys. And I think they would be the first line initially, unless things went sadly wrong, and then it would bring the guys back.
on the issue of kit, Rusty, you really did makeshift some of your stuff, didn't you? To the point that, nowadays you've got Surefire, you've got your rails, you've got all sorts of stuff going on with your kit. But then you really were just literally masking tape stuff to your weapons, weren't you? You know what I mean? Your torches are masking taped on and all that sort of stuff on it.
Yeah, let me just explain, right? I'll go from top to bottom quickly. This isn't rehearsed, by the way. Let's go to the top first and work down the kit that individuals wore on the siege. Okay? At the top, they'd have a gas, the old gas hood cut off. That would be the outside layer to stop the gas going through that we used on an assault. Underneath that would be a dark blue balaclava, which would be your first line over your S6 respirator. So the top of you is sealed as best you can. Yes, they still steam up, but actually you're sealed in what you're working with in the environment. Coming down from that goes over probably a tracksuit bottom at the bottom. Yeah.
Redhead's finest.
Yeah, I'm not, no. So I'm going to go to the bottom now. We've done the top bit to here, but underneath, most people would wear probably a tracksuit bottom of some sort, and then underneath that, a t-shirt, yeah, a t-shirt, but over that would be a bog standard tank regiment coveralls, the black ones, right? That would be over the top of that. Then if you come back, so you've got that, then you come back up to here, okay, you've got your coveralls all the way down, t-shirt underneath, maybe a tracksuit, or maybe nothing underneath, apart from what you stand up in. But actually, over the top of the coveralls would be what we called Bristol body armour. And in the front of the Bristol body armour is a ceramic shield or plate. The same at the back. Sole reason for that is any bullets and stuff or whatever, it's protecting to some degree your vital organs inside your body. Okay, so, you know, forget your dick. Here somewhere. So that would happen, right? That would happen. And then on top of that was like a pigskin, what we called ops waistcoat, with various pockets in where you could put flashbangs, where you could put bits and pieces, first aid field dressings in case somebody got injured. That would all go in that type of stuff, and they're really here. You know, they're at hand if you want them. Either hand, and on either your left shoulder or your right shoulder or your chest, you could have the air crew's knife in case you needed maybe cut yourself if you were abseiling or whatever. Let's not go to the gloves at the moment.
We've already had that question.
Rusty's pretty famous for his gloves on.
Forget that one at the moment. So you've got now a picture, but before we go there, everything we wore, including the rubber, burned. And we went into a burning building. Brilliant. And that is a fact. Okay, gloves. We'll come on to that now. Green gloves in those days were Army Air Corps pilot gloves.
That's right, the pilot
right?
stuff.
Yeah, the pilot gloves. So they were quite tight, you know. And then on top of that, if you wanted, you had the abseiling gloves, or you would have what were then the Northern Ireland gloves.
That's right,
The
the
old
little,
bird,
the little pad on the top.
Little pad on the top.
Yeah.
So they'd have that. At the bottom, right at the bottom, you used to have, for those who remember, what were called the Northern Ireland boots, which came up calf length, really good on motorbikes and stuff, but they burned, rubber. Okay, so there we were, attacking this, you know, to help rescue the hostages, and everything wasn't very good. To go on from that, the weaponry we had, I'll tell you now, was a 9mm high-power Browning semi-automatic pistol, 13-round magazine, normally put 12 rounds in so it didn't freak the springs out, carry 3 of them, 2 spare, 1 on the weapon. And, as I did, and a lot of the guys did, have a 20-round magazine on there as well. I used to carry 19 so the spring doesn't get completely jammed. Yeah, so, and that would be your side weapon, that is your backup weapon. Okay, and then you'd have your belt kit on, which would have taken some burning, but it was leather and good quality. But as Phil said, it's actually a lot of it, the John Max and a certain amount of us, where it had been used frequently, actually some of the workings on it had to be taped into position, which meant if you wanted to get it out quickly it'd be difficult, but at this stage it was only a backup weapon. So, but it worked. And then on your belt kit you have an MP5 magazine holder, 3 magazine holders, each of those magazines in there, 30 rounds in each magazine, and then that takes you round to the MP5 itself. In that day and age, absolutely stunning weapon. Okay, you know, retractable stock is what most people had on it, and the drawback was we had a little bit of a Mickey Mouse torch on there, the long torch, which was Mickey Mouse because it had a little button and then it had masking tape to hold the wires together so the torch would come on. That is a fact. And of course 1 in 3 people would carry like a little small fireman's axe, and the other ones would carry a mini sledgehammer. Like, what Bob did. Was
Yeah. So you had entry kit, but not nowhere near what they have entry kit nowadays.
No,
Manual
this
type,
was,
you know what I mean?
this was the start of getting, the Gucci kit, as I call it, came in afterwards, right? But we made it work, and the two reasons in my day, most of the guys had two, what I think are, I call it adaptability and flexibility. And what it means is if something goes wrong, you fix it. You don't wait for a sergeant to go, hey, no, you fix it. So you're adaptable to change and you're flexible enough to do what you're told. Or, as it happened with us, we had to actually, on the initial entry, we had to pull our charge because of the second floor balcony above us. Had it gone off and blown it down, my partner, Bob, got him to break the window in, pull it up, and we made entry through there instead of entry through the door. But it was successful. And that's how it was. You change the plan. As much as we planned and prepared for 6 days, okay?
It's only as good as the first 2 minutes. Always.
Anyway.
You can't say that nothing's going to go wrong. So what we had we had backup plans in case things went wrong. And they did go wrong. Make no mistake, I'm not trying to say it was brilliant. They went wrong, but they were fixed. The mission to save the 19 hostages was achieved. Job done.
That's it. So, for all intents and purposes, with what you were given, you did exactly what you were told to do.
We did what it
Which
says
was,
on the
and
tin.
it put SF on the map. It put the regiment absolutely into a place it had never really been before. I mean,
No.
it's always been up there, but you sort of like took it in a time when it had been almost winding down
It was winding down.
to smash it back up again. It was,
Got some questions?
We've got
So,
loads of questions
loads of
coming in. It'd be
questions.
unfair if we
Steve
didn't take a few of them.
Steve Shipley said, Rusty, although the mission was successful, did you and the team think it went well, and what did you learn from it? So basically, what you just said.
Yeah, did you debrief it? Did you have a sort of like a sit down and a
Oh, Cirencester, yeah, on the way back, it's on the, there's...
bird lip?
Yeah, on the bird lip, this side of the bird lip, I said this side. Bird lip, on the way back, by the time, if you think back, we got packed up, we handed our weapons in, everything was done, and then in slow time, there was a couple of vehicles left at different intervals, and we always stopped somewhere near the bird lip because it was open all the time, and got the burgers and stuff.
In the burger place?
Oh, yeah,
I know the one you're on about. I
Yeah,
can't remember what it's called now.
It used to be. Nowadays,
I know exactly where it is,
yeah, it was a caravan.
Yeah,
it was a caravan. And in those days, that's where one of our stops would be, because you could stay with the vehicles, you could have a cup of tea, coffee, whatever, and you're not leaving anything. You're there to secure the stuff and keep your eyes on it. But that was in the early hours of the morning, probably, I can't remember exactly, probably sometime after midnight, and a nice slow drive back. There's no fast driving, even though we were trained in it, no fast driving.
No.
So I have another question for you, and this is a really good question. Rusty, now you're a movie expert, do you think Barras will make a good movie?
Yeah, I've been asked about it already if I
Have
would
you?
do it, but I wasn't involved, so I would recommend it, and I would get somebody like Big Phil to get involved in it.
That's my territory. Look, I don't want to go on about my territory.
No, it's fair. There are stories, and they, ours took 37 years to come out, and I don't see any.
I'm sure it'll come out one day, Russ. There's a book out already. The Operation Certain Death that Damien Lewis wrote.
Yeah.
It's already out there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a lot of stuff to do.
No,
with what Barras
I
said there,
think
so.
it'd make like a lot of them would. No harm done. It's been there and done it. It's been in
The
all the
tactics
newspapers.
used now would be completely,
Of course.
and the kit and equipment used now would be completely null and void nowadays.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So you wouldn't be giving anything away. What you would be doing is honouring a good man's life that we lost that day.
Yeah, that's
what
right.
you would be doing, in
He's
my
got it
opinion.
right.
Yeah. So, Brad Tinian, it'd be nice to do it in his honour, to be honest,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not, and I think the public will enjoy it.
Yeah. So what are you up to now, Rusty? What do you do nowadays? You film?
Well, just obviously tonight come down to see the launch of the new party, the Democratic and Veterans Party.
So you're going to be involved with that? You're going to...
I haven't gone that far yet, but what I was asked to do is, what do you think of the support for it, and do you think there's a reason for it, is which actually the politicians, I'll leave that to them. Mine was tonight really just to say why I supported it, why I thought it was a good idea from where we are in this place at the moment, what the other parties, you know, the ones I don't mention anymore because I've forgotten about them, and I think the veterans should be looked after, and I think this is only, it doesn't actually open till Monday, even though we did the launch tonight in front of all the cameras and stuff and on TV and social media. They will get the reaction and they will come back to me, no doubt, a little bit down the line. I've always got an interest, you know, I helped Bob.
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
did,
you
know, in a
Bob's a good
different-
mate of yours as well, isn't he? Because Bob's your hero, isn't he? I mean, you're on the same job together. So.
Bob was the guy in front of me in the window. You know, so
With his gloves on, by the way.
if we
I had to get that one in there, mate.
if we didn't do it,
It's going to twat me in a minute.
I think, yeah, you know, that's the first thing. I had a bit of a rundown last year with a bit of illness, lasted about 10 months. And then got back on the road, done a few book signings, done a few, we got the film out a little bit late, but it came out. And then...
The hard times can fall on anybody's door at any moment, really, can't they? Do
of
you know what I
course,
mean?
yeah.
I've been there, Bob's been there, do you know what I mean? You've not always had the rub of the green, have you?
No.
Do you know what I mean? So,
But I've always helped people. Like, a bit like you know,
try to,
you help
don't you?
people, you try to help them. So actually, I'm delighted. If I get asked, I'll think about it. I'm still an ambassador with the Pilgrim Bandage charity,
which is a tremendous charity, by the way.
which is
You
a
know
great,
what I mean? They do some great
absolutely
stuff.
great charity, and they work so hard. And you know, they got the, they were, you know, we lost one or two people, but in the main, yeah. Of course, I will do some talks and stuff. One next week, yeah, next week, and then really going down those lines that you tend to go as you get a bit older.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you know, one thing overtakes another, and actually, that's what I'm doing. You know, the active run around these days isn't that much, but there is something else to do, and it keeps you sort of mind alert and stuff, and that's what I do.
Well, Rusty, look, unless there's any more burning questions, I'm sure we could go.
You can chuck them in, mate.
I could chat for hours,
You
Rusty.
can chuck
But,
them in. If they're interested, I'll try and answer.
anyone else that don't have those kids? Mike Mackey's on
Rusty, I
there.
need a plan.
I don't drink.
Self-serving.
Time to
Rusty,
get to
how
the
was the Guinness in Northern Ireland? Did you enjoy your time in the province? And have you been back? Says Norman Russell. Norman Russell said, how was the Guinness in Northern Ireland? Did you enjoy your time in the province? And have you been back to the province?
Yes. I remember a Guinness called Treble X in my day. I don't even know if it's available. Me and John Mack used to, one of my best friends, was passed away in 2011, was on the Embassy Siege with me. Yeah, we used to go and have Guinness. I used to drink Guinness in them days. Couldn't quite drink as much as him, but actually, you know, I did my share. And I have been back. Yeah, I've done talks in Northern Ireland. I was invited over to George Best's house by a good friend of mine. Rotary, not the Rotary Club, there's another club there, just skipped my mind. I've done black tie dinners and stuff over there and been looked after very well when I've been across there. Mainly in and around the Belfast area. But hopefully, if I get a chance to do a feature documentary, and I may have to visit certain places.
Peter King says, seeing you storm the embassy, you put the great back in Britain, proud of all your services. And I think you're right. I think it put not just the regiment on the map, but I think it put the country on the map. Do you know what I mean? And I think the fact that Margaret Thatcher, she had the right idea. Let's not mask it off. Let people see what we're dealing with here. Why shouldn't we, you know, once in a while say, right, I'll tell you what, have it, for want of a better word, you know what I mean?
Well, they've been on the spate of bombers, haven't they? And,
Well, there have been, and people were beginning to get comfortable with the fact they could take the mickey, didn't they? We're going to take the mickey.
Yeah, in the
They
late
were, weren't they?
70s.
You'd had
So-
Munich, and you'd had 2 or 3 things
Exactly.
that had gone wrong, and the terrorists had almost got the upper hand.
Yeah.
And so why shouldn't we stick up for ourselves? You know what I mean? And I think what you did was just, you know what I mean, incredible, wasn't it, really?
It's, and it was a benchmark, really. Nobody likes to glorify it, but it was a benchmark. And the guys that came in afterwards all remember it, as do a lot of civilians that you talk to and stuff, always.
Damon Warren said, is it true that Jim Davidson put a show on for you at Hereford and abseiled down onto the stage?
5th anniversary in the Booth Hall. The 5th anniversary of the siege in Hereford in the Booth Hall, when Tony had it, we had a get together, and Jim had my black kit on, Soldier IP winner was there, and a lot of people from the siege in 1985 were there, and it was basically a really good night, a good piss up, and people enjoyed themselves and went their own way.
Was he a funny fucker though? Was he?
Yeah.
Jim Davidson, was he good?
Good.
He's always funny.
He is.
James Flowers says, Rusty, what do you think of today's 2-2 SAS?
I'll be honest with you, I think sometimes you wish that you could be as employed as them, because we weren't quite as employed as they are to this day and age. They're stretched everywhere. I don't keep tabs on them. I don't know where they are. Well, I do, but I'm not saying anything about that. But I've got some friends which I still speak to, and I think the guys, the whole thing's changed, they've moved, everything's changed from when I left in 1992. But I do, from what I can gather, they've got some, they're going to be veterans when they come out, and some of them are going to need looking after. And I think, to be honest, that what should happen is that the jobs they do and the results is what it's about, and they do a great job ever since when I was there, before I was there, and since I've left, I've got nothing but admiration for those guys.
No, you're right there.
Seriously.
You're right there. When you meet, I mean, you must have met loads more than I have, the originals. When you meet, it's a humbling experience, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It is.
Absolutely
I
humbling
met,
to meet the originals.
I met one in Kent the other day. He's 90. Alec is 90 something. He came across, and the first thing I said to him, I said, "Let's have come and have a picture," because I was with Max Vernon,
Yeah.
the chief negotiator.
Yeah.
We did a talk in Kent.
That's right, yeah.
And he said, "Well, it's your night," and I said, "No, it's not."
Absolutely, yeah.
He's just been given what's it called, the Legion of Honour,
From France.
from what he did.
Okay.
The Knight of the Legion of Honour.
Wow,
Yeah, and he showed me it.
superb.
Absolutely brilliant. So we all learn from everybody. People learn from us. I learn from other people, and hopefully nothing but admiration for everybody.
Steve Lee says, 2 men, different times, both hostage rescuers, pretty damn amazing, sat on the sofa chatting, awesome. Thanks for your comments, Steve. Alan Ash wants to buy you a beer. Alan, I've sent Scott James out to get Rusty a beer up, and I'll collect the money off you later. Trust me, alright? Glad to see Bob's happy with his bungalow. Have you seen Bob since he's moved in?
Spoke to him on. He had a bit of a time where I could understand where he wanted to get himself together. I haven't actually seen him, but unfortunately, yet again, we have, hopefully, if I get up there for the funeral next week, then we've already arranged to have a meeting, and I've got some stuff that I've been given to pass on to Bob, so we'll pass out contact details and stuff. So I'm hoping to see him, but it gives him time to settle in and get sorted. But he's happy.
So long as he's happy, that's the main thing.
That's the
I
main
think,
thing.
you know, even when I see him the other week and he'd come up to town and it wasn't resolved yet, and he looked a bit, not unhappy, but it was anxious, do you know what I mean? He was a bit sort of, oh, what's going to happen here, do you know what I mean? And it's nice to know that he's settled and he is happy, you know?
Now we're in touch. I've said if there's anything we can do together as it progresses now that he's sorted himself, or the council have sorted him, whichever way you want to put it. He's happy, and of course, hopefully, he'll be looking to do a little bit of something to keep him, like we all need, something to do. And I'll be there if I can to help if he needs it.
Yeah, no, I think as we all will be. And I think the important thing that I really want to get out from Bob's case is that it's raised awareness for everyone who's suffering in that particular quarter. You know, and like I have said before, we are fortunate as it works both ways sometimes, but you know, as far as the cat badge goes that we've served under, we do naturally attract press and that sort of stuff, which in this case has worked to our advantage. But I want it to work to everybody's advantage, and not just members from my former regiment and Rusty's former regiment. You know, I like it to work for Private Bacon Neck from whatever battalion who's out there with nobody helping to promote him and all that sort of stuff. Because he's the geezer we don't find out about till it's too late, isn't it? You know?
Well, that's it. But actually, we made the start, and it was quite a high profile. The way it came out.
Yeah, I mean yourself on Piers Morgan with Bob.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Piers